Have faith in your mind, have faith in your grind. Invest in yourself, transform in your time. Have faith in your mind, have faith in your grind. Invest in yourself, transform in your time. When you trade and get paid, trade and get paid, trade and get paid, trade and get paid, trade and get paid. Oh yeah, trade and get paid, trade and get paid.
All right, guys, so let's just jump right into it. We're looking at the GBP AUD 30-minute chart. And what I want to show you is a really awesome little trend line trick that can get you some serious high probability, low risk, high reward scalps in the market. So here we go. Let's check it out. 30-minute chart. First thing we want to do is this. We want to look and we want to kind of see what is the overall picture. We've seen that. If you've been around my channel long enough, you know that we like to look at the big picture. If you want to watch one of those type of videos, just look above. I'll link a video above where you can see what I mean by looking at the big picture. We're looking at this bigger picture on the chart. As you can see, you have somewhat of a cup forming. You have a rounded bottom pattern. You are in a downtrend, but have been recently uptrending. And so now let's just kind of look at that and let's see exactly what is happening in the market. All right. So you see where we had this kind of reversal. We went sideways, got this another pullback, and then we started going up. So that's going to form what we call inner and outer trend lines. So here's what I mean by that. First thing we're going to do is we're not going to take this big wick because there was some news involved there. We're going to go from here, right from here, 1, 2, and we're going to go on through. All right. Remember that 1, 2, go on through. It works every time. All right. So we're going to go 1, 2. Everything else should line up with that. And now you're going to see some fake outs and some breakouts. You're going to see that. That's another video for another time. And you can actually see some videos where I talk about breakout strategies. I'll link that above as well. So we have 1, 2, go on through. What does that mean? It means that essentially at some point, price has to work its way back down to retest this trend line, right? If this is going to continue as an uptrend, we eventually need to retest this trend line to get a bigger, stronger push up. You're going to get strong push, and they're going to get weaker and weaker and weaker until eventually you actually see sideways looking movement before you pull back, gain strength, and then push back up, all right? So that's all got to happen, and in order for that to happen, you have your inner trend line. So what do I mean by the inner trend line? Watch this. You see here where we have this bigger move, but this area is where price really started to kind of go and gain momentum. What this is a drop, a base, and then a push up, a rally, and you see that even though we had a reversal point here, price was still kind of gathering, banks were still kind of gathering liquidity here. And we got that push off. We got a little fake out and then a push into the bullish direction. So what we want to do is we want to find that. First, we have the reversal. Then we have the gather. And then we have the breakout. All right. And so, or the directional push. And so here we have this directional push, usually signified by a fake out. And from there, what I want to do is I actually want to find the current speed of the market. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to use another trend line. All right. I'm going to go just like this. 1, 2, right? You with me here? 1, 2, go on through. Now, if you look at that, you can see that we're riding up the bottom side and then suddenly we get this push down here. Now, that gives you the fact that you're going to start to see sideways movement. Once you see that touch, you're going to start to see some of that sideways movement before the big pullback. Okay? Now, the next step and the last step with the trend line is you're going to take another trend line and go to that middle area. So you have your big push, your break right here, that middle area. So we have the outer trend line and we have the inner trend line. And then what we're going to do is we're going to find that area where the price is moving. We're going to find this area right here. 1, 2, and we're going to go on through. Okay, 1, 2, go on through. All right, now, what that creates for us is your top end, your long term, and your current. Okay, so now that we have this next 1, 2, go on through, here's what we know. Let's just to kind of recap here, and then this is going to tell us exactly what we know. We know that if price is going to continue up, it's going to follow this trend line on the bottom side until we get a breakout to the upside showing extreme volatility. All right, that's long term. Secondly, we have the long-term trend line, all right, which is the outer trend line, which means that price is going to eventually try to test before it makes that push to break this one. Okay? That shows longevity. So we have volatility and we have longevity. Last but not least, we have this trend line right here, which shows the current track of movement. And what we know that we're going to get eventually is at least a test of this trend line and maybe even a breakout of that trend line so that we can get to here. All right, so I hope that all makes sense to you. That gives us the current, the long term, and the strength and where it's going to gather its strength, the longevity. So here's what we're going to do. We're just going to let price do what it wants to do. And then we're going to use one more trend line that's going to give us an awesome, awesome move. So you see price right here is already kind of halfway down. It's already looking like it's trying to move down, and it already just moved down twice. So we really don't want to use this type of a move. If we were to try to get in here, you know, your stop loss is here. Your take profit is at the trend line. Obviously, that's way out of balance. We would never take a trade like that, okay? So what we want to do is we want to wait for price to kind of get back and test this area right up in here, because then we could get a good risk to reward and get a nice push down to the trend line. And again, these are scalps, so we're looking for small trades. So let's see what price will do, and let's see what happens. You see price is starting to move back up. You get a nice little push down, and then here we go. There, you see how price automatically started retesting? Now I'm going to tell you what was important here. This little push down was highly important because in order to draw a trend line, you need point A, B, and C. You want to draw your trend line from A to C. 1, 2, go on through. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're simply going to cut that off, right? We're going to literally just cut this whole entire thing off. We're going to move this whole trend line to the inside, and we're just going to let it see what happens. We're going to see as now we take the breakout of this trend line, and watch this. Now when we take the breakout of this trend line, we have a nice little move that we know we're going to get to the downside. We're going to retest this again in order to get here. And we know that we have structure at the top for a good risk to reward. So let's see what happens. And let's see if we can find a good entry. There's your push up. There you see that big wick. And that shows you your structure. There it is. Here's the push down. Boom. Right? So instantly, we got this little breakout. We have a really nice setup here because look, at the breakout, we're going to come here, and for a scalp, we have a nice little 1-to-1, a little bit better than 1-to-1 for a nice little scalp. Okay? So now let's see what happens. We get the breakout, we enter the trade right here, and we're looking to take it from line to line. Okay? Now there's moving your stop loss, there's taking partial profits, there's a trailing stop, these type of things that will help you to keep your risk reward intact. But we take the inner trend line right here. We take that trend line breakout. We start pushing down toward the line. We're already in profit almost immediately. And let's see what price does. Boom. Right? And it even ends up going a little further. But instant profit off of this. And all we had to do was use 4 trend lines. We didn't use indicators. We didn't use moving averages, oscillators. We didn't use a fib. We didn't use anything. All we used was trend lines to determine speed, volatility, and longevity so that we could catch a quick scalp on the pullback to go to the upside. That's it. So we enter in at the trend line break. We take it at the current move right there, that trend line that we make on the current move, and instantly, just like that, we end up with a beautiful little 35 pip trade. You could get, 15 to 20, take your profit. It's really up to you how you treat the trade. But anyway, you want to just take that breakout and you want to go from one to the next. And that gives you a beautiful scalping opportunity. All right, so hey, let's get some bonus footage here. I want to show you, remember that trend line at the bottom we talked about? Watch what happens here. I'm going to just kind of scroll this in a little bit so you can see what's going on, so you can see the whole big picture. But I want to show you what happened here. Just really quickly, you see how it retests the bottom of that trend line, that speed trend line? You can obviously see that there's patterns working in here inside of all this when you kind of back out and look at the structure. But what we have going on here is that we retested that inner trend line. We have some movement going between the two trend lines. And then watch what happens. Right? You see it kind of ride up. And look at where price is trying to do. Uh-oh, there it is. Look at that big move up. You see how it retests that same area where that trend line is. And then, just showing you here, that sideways movement starts, right? Look at that sideways movement. So now you have rally, base. You could do the same thing. Remember those inner trend lines I talked about? All of those still apply in here. Inner trend line, inner trend line, inner trend line. And take those breakouts over and over again when you have the bigger trend lines here. So now I want to show you this. Let's just take this out of replay so you can see what actually ended up happening. But when I drag this trend line, right, 1, 2, go on through, right? Let's make sure it's still there. You see 1, 2. That's all I had was that little bit right here. 1, 2, way back then. And all of this movement later, I want to show you how strong that is. It came out, retested, and as soon as it broke out like that, look at these beautiful retests. Look at that movement. When I got that breakout of that trend line, I could easily have took that scalp. Yes, we had to move to the upside, but then we had this retest. Beautiful moves, trend line, easy money all day long. Trend line to the upside, trend line to the upside, trend line to the downside, right? Over and over again, we get to use this by simply using multiple trend lines to show us speed, volatility, longevity, and our current moves.